For my theme project, I chose alcoholism and the short story What You Pawn I Will Redeem by Sherman Alexie. First, the story is about a homeless Indian drunk that has found a regula that owed to his grandmother, and he needs to find money to gain it back, but every chance he gets, he loses the money. In my first quote, I chose talks about Jackson buying alcohol, and he uses the words fortified courage to express that drinking gives him the courage to feel free, to not think, and just do. And I chose the image to represent all the alcohol in the liquor store. For my second quote, Jackson and his friends receive $20 and choose to spend it on 3 bottles of imagination, as he says, meaning when you drink you tend to lose sight of your vision and you can imagine anything to happen because you feel like you can do anything when you are intoxicated. The image represents what drunk people see when they are looking into the world. In my third quote, I chose Jackson wakes up from being intoxicated to one of his friends being gone and to one being covered in his own or somebody else's vomit. I chose this quote and image to represent by telling and showing that once you wake up after drinking your liver out, you wake up feeling confused and sluggish, and it is something that alcoholics can do almost every night. For my fourth quote, as an alcoholic Indian with a busted stomach, I was always hope I can keep enough food in my stomach to stay alive. I chose this quote because since all he does is drink, he is not eating enough to keep up with the alcohol, causing him to vomit any food he eats, and the image I chose to match this is a taper in food covering the woman's mouth to represent that her body won't take food, that at any chance it is going to come right back out. In my fifth quote, Jackson wins $80 and decides to spend it where other than the bar, and he goes to the only Indian bar near him, and in the image I chose is a bar on a different reservation called Blackfeet, to give an example of an all-Indian bar. For my sixth quote and image was Jackson spending all his money on shots and sharing with everyone in the bar. All he does is spend money and gets alcohol with it. For my seventh quote, I chose nearly blind with alcohol. I stood at the bar and swore I had been standing in the bathroom with Irene only a minute ago. This represents him losing track of time and forgetting his previous moves. The image I chose was to represent Jackson being and feeling alone in the bar. In the eighth quote, I chose the bartender is closing and kicks out the rest of the Indian alcoholics, and Jackson says Indian alcoholics are either sprinter or marathon runners. I believe what he is trying to say that sprinters can go fast and hard while marathon runners are slow and steady, meaning in how they consume alcohol. The image I chose represents a fight because there can be two different sides to a drunk person. For my fifth quote, I chose, he came for me, I don't remember what happened after that 4 a.m. I emerged from the blackness. Jackson is constantly drinking to the point where he cannot remember a thing, and where it just goes dark, and he comes up from it every time he drinks. And the image I chose, being passed out somewhere unfamiliar. In my final quote that I chose to represent alcoholism was Jackson realizing where he had just been passed out on. He expresses, should have been a railroad track pizza. Waking up, he seemed so surprised that he was still alive. He could have been crushed to death, but was given a second chance. And for my final image to go along was a team looking for a dead man on the track and to show that it could have been him, but was not. And here I have my works cited page.